the only thing that's not fixable in life is death. Because when you're dead, obviously, you have no more chances to try.
Rise up, mind shift, new day, new hustle, street lights, bright ideas, courage through the struggle. Focus on the vision, move smart, stay true. From the city to the boardroom, we breaking through, shift gears, new fears, but we thrive in attention. Turn lessons into action, goals into intention. Don't blink, stay up, every player's precision. Welcome to Mind Shift, where ambition meets the mission.
My name is Jermaine Reed. I'm the managing partner for KGR Consultants. And my business largely focuses on government affairs and strategic solutions for businesses throughout the country.
When you were really lost, what was the voice in your head telling you every day?
Well, a time in terms of being a loss, I would say was when I was a teenager. And my family at the time, we had become homeless. We lived at homeless shelters and then also lived at a transitional housing shelter called Community Link, which is located at 40th and Truce. And that time for me was probably one of the most trying times in my life in terms of trying to navigate, been a teenager and then also been in high school and how and what life looks like. For me, I was very involved in high school, not only within my school community, but also throughout the greater Kansas City community, where I was on Generation Rap, a radio program on Hot 103 Jams every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And before I guess the time of where people can go to their phones and you had podcasts or whatever, we were on a radio program like a Teen Summit every Saturday morning. And so I was very active. And so for me, that period of being homeless as a child has always been something that I've reflected on. If it hadn't been for my public service and been involved in the community and wanting to run for public office, for me, it informed my decisions quite often, where I understand and understood what people are dealing with every single day. And so even as a business owner, those decisions that I'm helping companies with every single day, I often reflect on those sort of experiences from childhood that inform my every decision today, where it's not something that I've got to feel like I've got to learn and how are people doing it. I lived it. Lived experiences really helped me in a period where I felt like I was lost. Now, don't get me wrong. As a business owner, there are also times where there are challenging times that come in my way. And I often try to figure out how best do I not just stop and just stop, but how do I keep going? And I often tell people that the only thing that's not fixable in life is death. Because when you're dead, obviously, you have no more chances to try. But when seeking contracts, when seeking businesses, when seeking opportunities, all you got to do is get to a yes. And when you're, as we're alive, we have breath in our bodies, we have all the opportunities to continue to say, I want to keep giving it another try, and I'm going to continue to keep going. And that's how I've kind of lived my life and faced challenging situations.
So during that time, personally and in your business, how did that feel emotionally? Like, what was really going on inside?
Well, emotionally, things are quite often challenging. But I think that for me, I've always reflected on my emotional intelligence and having the bandwidth to withstand whatever comes my way. I think that we can't continue to mope and drown in our sorrows, but we have to figure out how we're going to rebound when some challenge comes our way. And too oftentimes, I think people sit and sort of try to cry when some bad situation comes, and they don't necessarily dust themselves off and get up and get back to work. And so for me, I've always tried to draw on my emotional intelligence and my bandwidth to continue giving it all I've got. But more importantly, I also as well have learned that every 90 days, and I can completely take the credit for this because my professional coach told me this probably some 15 years ago, and that is every 90 days, take time to yourself. And so that is where I have continued to push the reset button every time, where I can get back and I can come back full and prepared to be the best person that I can for myself, my business, my family, my community, and those in terms of who I work with every single day. And I think that that's what people have to continue to do so that they can be their best selves and have the emotional strength and bandwidth and integrity so that they can pull through any situation that they find themselves in.
During those challenging times, what thoughts or doubts kept spinning in your mind? Was there a story that you were telling yourself?
I mean, basically what I've said in terms of just drawing back to knowing that I can do whatever I put my mind to. I often think of a quote that I read probably 20 years ago by William Danforth in a book called, a very small book actually, called I Dare You. And that book says, and this quote says, I should say, because there's several of them, but in this particular quote, it says that never give up until you have released your unused capacities for service and shared your gifts with others. One enkindled spirit can set hundreds on fire. And for me, in that book of I Dare You by William Danforth, I have continued to want to be that light and that fire to set hundreds on fire and do whatever I can to be helpful to the world around me.
During that loss phase, where did you turn for answers or inspiration?
For me, it's always been turning to those that I know have gone through some challenging periods. In the work that I do as a lobbyist in government affairs, there are many people who have gone before me. And so being able to draw on their mentorship and sharing with them what it is that I'm going through so that they could share their stories and their paths forward have been ways that I've been able to draw on my own sort of experiences to move and act accordingly in whatever situation that I may find myself in. Because too often times we act as if that this is the only thing, or we're the only ones that are experiencing such deal. But the reality of it is that there are many people that have done it better or worse or whatever in between. I've always used those experiences from others to govern my own sort of work and draw from their life lessons and their experiences so that I could better my own self.
We are architects of attention. We don't just tell stories, we ignite them. With cinematic vision and digital fire, we turn brains into experiences. Our stories don't whisper, they roar. Bold, raw, unforgettable. We transform moments into movements. Each pixel, each frame, each word crafted to leave a mark. We don't chase trends, we set them ablaze. Your brain is more than a logo, it's a living, breathing force. We amplify voices, spark conversations, and build connections that stick. Our creators are relentless, award-winning, and obsessed with excellence. We are storytellers, weave our brain amplifiers. We connect you to the modern consumer, wherever they are and however they listen. Dare to be seen, dare to be heard, dare to be unforgettable.
Let's talk about mentorship. So tell me, why is it important to have a mentor, and how do you go about finding one?
As a person who grew up in the urban core in this community, a single family home, a mother who raised 5 boys, for me, I had a lot of mentors that I could draw on. Now, while I did not meet my biological father until I was about 37, 38 years old, so later in life, there were male role models, one being my late grandfather, which my business is named after. He was a role model in every sense of the word, but he was my grandfather. And so while he didn't necessarily think that he was probably been a role model, but he taught me how to carry myself as a man. He taught me how to tie my tie. He taught me how to make sure that I could speak up and make sure my voice was heard. He taught me how to be the first person to dream. Sorry, I'm trying not to cry. I've got so much going on in my head, and I'm trying my best to make it through it. But my grandfather, my late grandfather, was the first person who taught me how to dream big. I'll never forget sitting around the kitchen table as a youngster, and my grandfather questioning me about what it is that I wanted to be when I grew up, and how I was going to take the right steps to get to whatever phase and step that was. And from those interactions and those very early on discussions in my life, and that's where I found other mentors in our community to also fill that role as a mentor. Those like Alvin Brooks, who I met when I was just a 9-year-old kid, who took me under his wings. The organization that he founded, Ad Hoc Group Against Crime, wasn't too far from our home, and they had team programs that they were working with a number of youngsters in our community, and my older brother was going. And of course, a mother telling the older one, only way you can go is if you take your little brother. And so that's how I met him. And he has become a lifelong mentor and a friend, and someone who, in a lot of ways, I saw myself emulating him. And there's an article that hangs here in my office where when I was just 15 years old, I was interviewed by the Kansas City Star. And the Kansas City Star, this article talks about my childhood and being a teen and making the most of life. But Mr. Brooks is quoted in the article, and he says, this young man can likely be a city councilman someday, and likely maybe 10 years from now. And go figure, 10 years later, I was elected to the city council as the youngest person in city history in Kansas City. But it was because of his mentorship and because of others who took time with me to show me the ropes and show me how to be an entrepreneur, to show me how to be a public servant, show me how to be a man, to show me how to be the very best person that I possibly can be. That's true mentorship, and that's what those gentlemen that I've referenced have been able to teach me. And of course, I have tried my best and continue to pay it forward by mentoring those who are coming behind me.
Did you ever have a moment of false clarity, thinking you found the right answer or path, but when you acted on it, it didn't fit or hit the way you expected?
No, not necessarily. That's actually a good question. I quite often thought about that question when I went off to college. I've been a first generation college graduate. I knew what I wanted to do, and it was always clear. And more importantly, I had someone who paid my entire tuition to go to Mizzou. When I went off to Mizzou, where I was a first generation college student, it was very clear for me. I had someone who, a gentleman by the name of David Ross, he was the president of Bank of America here locally. And he approached me when I was probably 14 years old and said, "Hey, do you want to go to college?" And I didn't necessarily know what he was talking about, but everybody else around me was sitting there going to college. And I said, "Yes, I want to go." He says, "Well, what college do you want to attend?" And I'll never forget, I turned to him and said, "College." Again, no one in my family had ever gone to college, so nothing was really ingrained in my sort of system of like, this is the college I want to go to. And so it was always crystal clear for me is that if someone is investing in me, that I had to do all I could do to just make things happen and go and make them and just go, do what I was supposed to do while I was there. And so never had a moment where I just felt like I didn't have any clarity. And I felt the same way running for public office. I felt the same way when opening up a business and being an entrepreneur, is that if I've set my mind to do this, it's clear. I'm going to go down this path, and I'm going to do it with my head high and do it the best way that I possibly can.
At what point of your journey have you had to deal with insecurities and low confidence? How did you overcome that?
I've never been an insecure person. So sure, there's things and times that I might doubt how things are or some sort of, am I good enough? But I've been in rooms since 25 as a leader in our community and certainly in civic ways. And so I've always had to have confidence to be in a room where the oldest person in the room is probably 80 years old, but you have just as much authority as them. But that confidence comes from what I've already talked about, from childhood and from mentors, and been exposed to opportunities and things. And so it was something that I've just been able to have. It's been massaged many times over, and it's a work in progress still to this day. But it also gives me that confidence as an entrepreneur, where when dealing with multiple clients and sharing with them how best to have the same confidence that I have, so that we can accomplish the goals that we have in front of us. Either it's getting new contracts that are $10 million and more, so that they can provide a solution to cities across the country, or whatever it may be. That confidence is one that for me has been built many times over, and I continue to try to do everything I can to harness it as best as I can.
What does being a leader look like to you?
Well, being a leader is someone who shows up every single day, prepared, knowledgeable, and ready to lead. Being a leader does not look like someone who wants to come and be a showman, or someone who doesn't want to get things done. But at the core of every single thing that we do, in terms of the work that I do, you have to have real leadership. For me, I've always realized that if you're not at the table, you might be on the menu. And so since I'm at the table of leadership, I want to come prepared and ready to stand up and speak out in some cases on behalf of the folks who I represent, the people that I serve, and doing all the things that I know that are necessary. And so I know what that leadership looks like. I've seen many people who are good leaders, and I've seen some that are horrible leaders. And but it definitely is those who come prepared and ready to make a difference for those in our community and our society around us.
Looking back, what would you tell your past self at your lowest point?
Man, that's a really good question. I often think, man, if 16-year-old Jermaine could talk to 41-year-old Jermaine, what would you say? And I don't necessarily know if I actually have the answer outside of just brace yourself for the journey and be prepared for whatever comes along the way, because it's been quite a journey. I think if both of those persons could meet, they both would say, man, we're very proud of you. And I'm looking forward to whatever life has ahead of me as well. And that at that later stage of life, looking back, hopefully, and I'm pretty confident that I will get the same thing. But just be prepared for the journey and embrace everything you possibly can, with the same grit, determination, the same wit that you have embraced every single thing else that you've done in life. And that's what I would say.
How has your definition of success changed from when you were lost to where you are now?
The definition of success is exactly what it is that a person that is successful, that's doing things, they're accomplishing the goals that are set out for themselves, and they're crushing them. And that definition just has not ever changed. I don't think Webster's dictionary is going to change the definition. And so for me, I wanted to be and continue to be laser focused on how do I keep crushing every single journey, every single business opportunity that comes before me, with every ounce of success that I can. So there's not going to be no in between. There's no ambiguity between that, and I just want to keep working hard to do that.
Beyond work and achievements, how do you define yourself and keep your sense of self-worth?
I'll go back to something I said earlier, and that is, again, using the advice from my professional coach, where every 3 months you try to take some time to yourself to restart and come back and be the very best that you possibly can be. For me, I typically try to go out of town, although I travel quite often, but I try to go out of town and hit the reset button, take a trip to kind of, just reflect, spend time thinking about how can I be more and give of myself more to the work that I'm doing, and using that opportunity to come back stronger and stronger every single time. And so that being the very best advice I think I've received as a professional has helped, I believe, fuel my fire to make perfect and, well, not necessarily perfect all the time, but make good decisions, and to come back every single time refreshed and ready to accomplish anything that's put before me.
What would you tell a fellow entrepreneur right now who is stuck and feeling lost?
I would share with any entrepreneur who feels stuck or lost that continue to stick to it. You may get 9 people to tell you no, but you need just one person that to tell you yes, and that will be what takes you over the edge, and then will help you grow your business, because there will be some bad days, but as they say in church, the good days outweigh my bad days. And I think that you often, while you're on your journey being an entrepreneur, you will realize that the good days definitely outweigh those bad days. And so you just got to stick to it and go in with the utmost confidence that you can, knowing that you've prepared for whatever work assignment that you are venturing toward, or whatever business it is. If it's, a restaurant that you're trying to open, or if it's just you're trying to get a new contract to build new homes, or whatever type of work that you do. I think you just have to continue to make sure you know that one door closes, another door is going to open, and quite often they will open multiple times, more than you actually realize. And so just stay the course.
What's one book that made a real impact on your journey?
There are a number of books that have made a lot of impacts on my life, and there's one book called I Dare You by a gentleman named William Danforth. And that book of I Dare You has so many different challenging quotes in that book, but many that stand out. One of those quotes in the book is to be my own self and my very best at all times. And I've always used that quote by William Danforth in that book, I Dare You, so that I can show up being who I am at my own self at all times, my very best at all times. And that book is it's continued to be an inspiration to me, and I encourage anyone to likely read it. But there's multiple books, especially about being an entrepreneur and how to strike the gold or the resources that you're looking for, that I would encourage folks to also read.
That's it for this episode of MindShift. This series is presented by Startland News, KC's nonprofit newsroom for startups and innovators. Produced by Social Apex Media, a Kansas City marketing and content studio. If this hit for you, share it with another entrepreneur and subscribe for the next video.